Alright, before we begin, I would just like to shout out my patrons, Dudley Reiner, Crimson, Project Mercury, Concert, and Damacus Whitewood. I'm very grateful for your support, and if any of you want to support me on Patreon, you can always find the link in the description below.
Hey guys, I'm Naya, and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I decided to do a similar video like one I already have on the channel when it comes to cards to pick up for the upcoming format, but today I want to focus solely on Spright because I think it's like there are so many tech cards people are testing in Spright, and there are so many different extra deck options, and I just want to focus on it. And I might do even a tier limit video if you guys like this one, because I think it's cool to sort of have everything compiled in one place, and you can come here and sort of reference this video to know which cards to pick up to be ready if you're trying to play Spright. Some of them are expensive though, like this is not a budget video. Some of them are expensive, so they are going to be an investment if you're picking up Spright and those engines as well. So with all of that being said, please let me know if there's anything I have missed, and also if you're actually going to be playing Spright, or what are you going to be playing in the upcoming format. I would really want to know. Now, for the first couple of cards, we're going to be mentioning the normal summons when it comes to Deep Sea Diva as well as the Nimbo engine. Now, I want to point out that I already covered in the previously mentioned video the cards to pick up for the upcoming format. We covered the Nimbo engine as well as Frog Stuff and Baron. I think that's everything when it comes to Spright, so I won't go over it one more time. I just had them pop up on the screen for you so you know, so we're all on the same page. These are obviously cards that are going to be amazing in the Spright strategy, but today, since we already covered those, we're going to be covering other ones. So Deep Sea Diva, naturally a very strong normal summon, and you can decide whether or not to play this, to play the Nimbo engine, because, you know, Nimbo stuff, like, it's very nice, and with the upcoming Ishizu support is also going to be great because tier limit deck mills your deck, so you cannot summon with Deep Sea Diva from graveyard, but you can do that with the Nimbo engine. Now, the only thing I want to point out when it comes to this is the fact that you can play adventure stuff in Spright. So this is going to be the next thing we mention. You can pick up the adventure engine. Now, if you play this, you're not going to be playing the normal summons because, of course, it does clash. And another thing to point out is the fact that adventure stuff is expensive. So if you're actually investing in this, then maybe you already have like a deck that can play adventure stuff on hand, or you just solely want to play it in Spright. Whatever it may be, I don't think the adventure engine is a bad investment per se, because I don't really see it getting hit severely. So even if it gets semi-limited or even limited, I don't think it's going to be such an issue. People are still going to be playing it, and it might not even be hit. And then another thing to take into account is the fact that we don't know when the ban list is going to be. So if the ban list happens and the stuff is not hit, it's going to go up in price. So, you know, I don't know, like, I don't want to be the one to tell you, but if you want to invest into something like this, adventure can be played in Spright. Now, moving on to the next thing, since we already mentioned the ban list, we need to touch upon Hulky Fibrex as well. Hulk might get hit, but it is very, very cheap right now, so I don't think it's a bad thing if you pick up a copy and just play it in Spright. Like I said, we don't know when the ban list is going to be. We don't know if it's going to get hit. But what we do know is the fact that it's amazing in Spright. Now, it's able to get you hand traps and then you bounce them. But that's kind of a cheesy play, and I don't really see people going for that. Over here, are you really going to be committing your plays to search something like Ash? I don't really think so. But when you're able to get out something like Plague Spreader Zombie, which is the next card I want to mention, then it's really, really nice. And that's, of course, not the only thing you're able to summon out with Fiber, but Fiber grants you so much. So I already mentioned Plague Spreader Zombie. It's very easy to go into Baron, and since it's a tuner, it's just able to do a lot of things. You are playing synchro stuff, so later on, if you also play, for example, and this is the next one, if you play Yamakato Orochi. Now, this one is, it just got sort of discovered a couple weeks back, and I think it's an amazing addition to the deck if you're trying to go for that kind of line. You can easily go into Baron before your 5 summons, so you're not exposed to Nibiru, even though your deck can play around it with Gigantic Spright. But even without it, you know, you're able to go into Baron, and then later on, you're also able, with the help of Hulky Fibrex, to go into Desert Locust and into Omega. So those will be the next 2 cards that are worth picking up. Both of them are, of course, cheap. So as much as hand looping is unhealthy. It's a very easy and straightforward way to win, so some people might want to pick that up, and I guess I just want to throw this out as an option. With Hulk, you go into Desert Locust, you make them get rid of the card, and then you go into Omega, because you will have a body on board. You can summon it with Spright Elf. You just have ways of acquiring bodies for free in this deck, so you are going to have at least one to be able to synchro summon with it. Now, we're still on the topic of tuners. Another addition to the deck could be Hoppier Squadron together with Herald of Arclight. Now, I have not seen a lot of builds go for that, but it's a cool way to sort of play around Dark Ruler, because it is going to be a very prevalent card moving forward, I think. So if you have a way to sort of, if you get Dark Ruler, to still like acquire a disruption very easily because you have that Hoppier Squadron in the hand because it got bounced, then that's really nice, because Ruler just takes care of the board as it is at that current point in time. So if you're able to later on use Hoppier Squadron and then get an additional negate in the form of Herald, that's really, really strong. Overall, Herald, of course, being able to prevent your opponent from getting stuff to the graveyard easily, being able to prevent stuff like Ogre, Droll, what else? You have Droplet, just things that will pitch themselves to the graveyard for cost, which cannot happen. Herald is really nice in preventing that. And then naturally, like, if you can prevent them from getting Tearlam and stuff in the graveyard, that's really, really strong. But yeah, I have not seen a lot of builds with that. You can still, of course, test it. Then the next thing is going to be a really cool engine. Like, to me, it's just amazing because it's GX and it's Dark Beckoning Beast together with Opening of the Spirit Gate. It's a level 2 and you get to both of them. So immediately when you have 2 level 2s, you can do pretty much whatever you want. Similarly to like a Deep Sea Diva normal summon, get another Diva or get the Orochi. You have a lot of ways to just get to bodies in this deck, like I said. So Dark Beckoning Beast being one of them. It's also very easy to go into like a Link, for example. I think it's a really cool tech in the deck. And then since we're already on the topic of engines, another one which is a much bigger one, it's essentially like another archetype, would be Life Twin. Now, I think to point out is the fact that links are expensive. Like, to me, that's just one of those expensive things that I'm really like not on board for. Like, I'm not on board for anything being expensive, but some things make sense and then others are just, they make sense, but they're really, really lame. Like when stuff is not played, when stuff is not staple, when stuff is not extremely broken, like you cannot justify it being that expensive for a card that you need to play more copies of. You know, when you're trying to like get your hands on the entire engine, it's not going to be that cheap. But then if you already have Life Twin, then it's a cool addition because you're able to get to the Scythe Lock. Now, this deck features a lot of unhealthy things. You have the Scythe Lock, you have the ripping your hand apart engine. But yeah, the next thing I guess I would want to mention would be the Life Twin stuff, and then Scythe, of course, and Dagda, and like all of that. You can play that version. Like at this point in time, stuff is really unexplored, so you're able to play pretty much whatever and just test and try it out. So yeah, Life Twin would be the next thing. And then moving on to the like generic extra deck stuff. We already mentioned that in the previous video. We mentioned Centauria, and there's Zeus, Downer, Magician, stuff like that. You're also able to play the Dark, Unicorn, just a couple generic things, because your main go-to monsters, there's just a couple of them. You go for Spright Elf, you go for the gigantic Spright, and you go for Toad, of course, but you have a lot of flex spots, so you're able to play stuff like Gym Buster, like the Onibimaru Soul Sweeper. So yeah, I really like those random rank monsters that just have very specific effects, and then there's like one archetype that's focused solely on one level, and then you can play all of these and they just become so useful. Like, I think it's so cool. So yeah, those are a couple that you're able to include in your deck if you want. And then another thing I wanted to touch upon would be the pot cards. So if you already have Pot of Prosperity, or if you're able to get your hands on Pot of Prosperity, then that's really nice. Because in a deck like this, where you really don't want to banish your one-offs because you have the Ronin Toadin, you have a couple bricks, right? Well, bricks. You have a couple one-offs that you maybe don't want to play at more than one copy. And like, you don't want to banish it. So you're able to play Desires if you're like really brave and you really don't care. I legit saw a deck like today. I think it was able to win a, I'm not sure which event it was, but they play Desires. And, you know, that's very bold. So you can swap the Prosperity for Desires. You want to have consistency, like in any deck pretty much. But yeah, it's a big difference in price. So you need to decide what you want to play. And then the next thing would be Gamma together with Italy. So there are a couple of level 2 extenders, right? You have a couple things, but the best one, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, and I've seen a lot of builds with it, would be Italy and Gamma, because Gamma is going to be such a strong hand trap by itself going into the next format. So if you're able to actually utilize it as a hand trap going second or as an extender going first, that's honestly busted. Gamma is not expensive right now. Italy had a rare reprint and it's like very accessible. So if you're able to get your hands on that engine, I think it's going to be very, very good. So yeah, that would be it. Hopefully I guess let you know a couple things that you maybe haven't thought about before, or yeah, I guess if you just enjoyed the video, I'm also very glad. And of course, let me know, like I said, if there's anything I have missed, if there's anything worth picking up. And like I said, a lot of things have been mentioned in the previous video as well, so I wanted to cover a bit more, I guess, staple things and a bit more generic things and a bit more specific things in this video as well. So if you liked it, like I said, please like the video, sub to the channel, and check out all of the social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!